With Holly being the only driver to take multiple wins so far this season, he seems a likely pick for the championship. But Pocono plays no favorites. Three distinctly different corners, drastically high speeds, and a whole lot of question marks face our drivers. They don't call it the tricky triangle for nothing. We'll see if anyone has mastered it as we get ready to watch round 6 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Chris Foby. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and is using cameras provided by W. Beard. Chris, in case some of our viewers aren't familiar with perhaps the most unique oval in the country, why don't you fill them in on Pocono?
Yeah, oval is probably a loose term around this place, more triangular shape with three distinct corners. This track is 2.5 miles in length. Corners at 14, 8, and 6 degrees of banking, meant to mimic three legendary ovals found around the United States. Looking at a 55-minute race, approximately 45 laps roughly this afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is, here at the Tricky Triangle, as you called it. Pocono Raceway is going to be a really unique challenge for these drivers with, like I mentioned, three very distinct corners to this track. And we're going to take a quick look here at Pocono Raceway.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek, taking for a spin around the Pocono Raceway in the GSRC Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck. Without further ado, here we go. The very long front stretch that is long enough here at Pocono to land a plane on. Don't ask me how. I know. It's happened. Down here, you're really trying to build up steam, and especially in these trucks, they're going to pick up a huge draft. So down here to turn one, you could see some defending, but the biggest and kind of the best way to do it in your hot lap, let it float in, but then kind of try to drive it straight through the middle there, and then down this very long stretch. It's not really a back stretch because the track only has three corners like a triangle. So down here into turn two, affectionately known as the tunnel turn, because, well, that's the tunnel to get into the infield. Let off just a little bit, let the left sides find that yellow line and swoop it right back out. You're trying to follow as straight of a line through that corner as possible to really keep them all speed. Down here to turn three, little bit of front brake just to set the front end, and then you're going to want to pick up that throttle as soon as you can, getting those left side tires down there towards that rumble strip. Depending on the weather and the setup and all those factors, you might be able to even put the whole left side tires on that rumble strip and really get an extra bite off of the corner. As the run moves around and as the tires burn off, you could see a little bit of movement down here to turn one. Maybe take these higher wide arc and then try to bring it back down a little bit and try to get that head of steam on the guy in front of you, using the draft off of the truck in front of you to get a run. But then what you could also see, because Pocono is very wide, so you can see them try to defend those runs. Get all the way down here to block that run, but then you got to bring the truck all the way back out here to make your entry into the tunnel turn in turn two, bringing it right back across. And let's say maybe you made a mistake there. Well, here you go. You got to get back on the aggressiveness and block and try to defend. Now, here's what you can do in turn three. You can take this little higher entry. Some guys might go a little one lane more up, but not in my experience does it work. But if you take this little higher lane, it can kind of stall the lane underneath you, which is going to let you get a big head of steam down this front stretch and across the line. And that's going to complete our guide here around Pocono Raceway. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
A couple laps around Pocono. Drivers often compare it to road course racing, but on an oval, it is that difficult around here. But this season of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series is brought to you by Established Traffic Control. Founded in 2005, EST is a leader in traffic control and traffic safety in the state of Pennsylvania through maintaining great relationships and providing exceptional customer service. In addition to being able to provide you all that you need for traffic safety, ETC makes custom signs. From street signs to company logos and everything in between, these custom signs make great gifts and wall decor. You have a design, ETC can make it. Shipping is available. For more info, visit establishtraffic.com or email Brendan Chatley at bchatley@establishtraffic.com. Thanks to them for bringing us this championship season, which has certainly been fun to watch. But let's take a look at exactly how that championship is shaping up so far with our point situation. Bradley Holly, as I mentioned, the only driver with more than one win under his belt this season. However, he is only 17 points up from Braden Johnson. He's got a ways to make up, but he's certainly not out of it. This includes drop weeks, although Holly's sitting on a lot better results that you can see. Haynes jumping up 4 positions to crack into the top 5. So, really, he's one of the biggest movers that we've got. And then we've got two tied for 5th position. Chris, we also have a teams championship in this series. What is that looking like currently?
Well, as you can see, the Whataback team is out in front with a somewhat comfortable 20-point margin over the Hard Knock Sim Sports crew. And then sitting there in third place is the second Whataback team. They actually dropped a spot after last week's running for a good showing from the Hard Knock squad. And then the international Whataback team, the Pavement Puppies, sitting in fourth with the Savage Drive team rounding out the top 5, gaining 2 spots after last week's event.
Now, in case you've never watched this series before, as we see them practice some starts here in this series, just trying to get everybody packed together, let's go over the race details. We are in round 6 out of 10, and there's that one droplet next to it. That indicates that their worst result of the season will be dropped from their points. So you have a little bit of leeway if you have a bad result, or if you just have some real life obligations that you have to take care of. There's what bad results we hope don't happen in the background. They are fixed setups in this series, and they've limited the fuel as well, so they will be forced to take a pit stop over the course of the race. That race itself, as was mentioned, 45 laps if they get to the lap length. But if this race has too many cautions, they will wind up going to a timed race, and that will be 55 minutes long. They have an incident cap of 13 incidents, which can be racked up around here, even though they've taken away a lot of the grass in the last build of this track. And let's take a look at the temperature, the weather currently, because it seems like that might certainly affect it. We always talk about how tough it is to drive around this place, Chris, but I'm looking at the track surface temperature, and I mean, is this heat just going to make it all the worse?
Yeah, definitely having a hot track like that isn't going to make things any more fun on a track that's already really challenging. It's going to be hot and slick, and especially when you're hauling the mail over into turn number 1 with speeds approaching 200 miles an hour, you're not going to be having a great time.
So we'll have to see if anybody can deal with that, and maybe, hopefully, it'll cool down a little bit. They're in warm-up currently, and that is just about over with, although it looks like they're thinking they might pack up for just one more start try. They're going to have to hustle if they want that, because we are about to start qualifying, where everybody is going to get 2 laps on the track by themselves and 5 minutes to try to get those 2 laps in. Around this third corner here, you can see everybody kind of sort of packed up, but not really. So this isn't so much a start, I guess. This is just pack racing, so everybody gets up to speed and down the long front stretch. This front stretch is often a talking point too in a lot of races that we see here, Chris. I mean, is it long enough that the draft is really going to be helping slingshots for these cars down into turn 1? Or is it just a little too short for that?
I honestly think we could see it play into effect a little bit. The engine configuration on these truck series trucks, that was a little redundant, but these truck series vehicles, I think will allow for a little bit of drafting just because of the way the engines are configured. You got to keep those trucks wound up, and any little bit of speed you can gain from the draft will be a huge help.
Qualifying has now started. A few of our drivers getting out onto the track and on their warm-up lap. What about restarts and the start, though? Because every time you see a photo of the green flag being waved here, it looks like you could see 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 wide. Is that a danger when drivers start to try and get greedy like that? Is it better to try and stay in a single file to keep safe, or is there enough incentive that you really want to try and fan out like that?
Yeah, I think the width of the front straightaway is deceptively comforting. You know, you have such a wide area to spread out on, and you don't realize how big of a bottleneck it's going to be once you get into turn 1. And when you have that many trucks trying to converge on the same piece of real estate, it's going to create some chaos when everybody's coming together like that. So I think probably the smart move is to stay in line, but once you put that helmet on, sometimes you cut the blood flow off to your brain a little bit, and you see some drivers get a little bit greedy and try to get the run into the corner. But the safe bet and what the drivers are going to do, probably not the same thing. But you know, if I had my druthers out there in one of these trucks, I'd probably stay in line until turn 1, lap 1 was done with.
We'll see if anybody follows your advice. Right now, Jean-Francois Champagne coming around on what I believe is his hot lap. A few drivers coming around to finish that. I believe Austin Hunter might be one of those. We watch him head down into turn 3.
I tell you, Joe, Jean-Francois Champagne has to be one of the coolest names I've ever seen.
Certainly seems like someone who should be racing in F1 rather than over here in NASCAR, but he's been faring pretty well. Now, Braden Johnson currently has the provisional pole, but times are very quickly tumbling in on our timing and scoring. We'll try to keep you up to date on that. I see Colton Lane doing very well, having come onto the front row.
Yeah, right now actually a pretty sizable gap for Braden Johnson over second place. He's got about 2.5 tenths over the second place right now.
Robert Esau Jr. gets himself up to third onto row 2. How important is track position in qualifying? Is it pretty tough to try and get those positions in this truck around here? Or is it more kind of like places like Michigan or Daytona where it doesn't matter where you start, you just got to crawl your way forward?
I think there's probably a more premium on a better starting spot at Pocono as opposed to somewhere like Michigan or Daytona, because this track is a little more technically challenging. However, the way these trucks are set up and as much space as you have on this track, I really think that it's not going to ruin your night if you're starting towards the back. But you can definitely make it a lot easier on yourself if you can put in a good qualifying lap.
Esau comes across for his second lap, and it is not quicker, about 2 tenths slower. He is down to fourth, having been displaced by Austin Hunter, who's currently coming around for his second lap. Ducks it down low to the inside, also a little bit slower. In fact, I saw both Johnson and Lane, and they've been bumped a little bit by Sink, who gets onto the front row. Both Johnson and Lane have stepped away after their first lap and have not elected to take second one. Is the first one really the one you want to nail?
I mean, if you have the confidence in the lap that you did, I can't blame you for letting that ride. If it were me, I'd be out there probably as many times as I could get in, because I'm a bit obsessive. But some of these guys, I think, have the confidence in their ability and the confidence in the way they drive this track to bank a lap early and know that it's probably going to keep you up front.
Nicholas Hunter rounding into the pits. Looking to see if anybody else is still taking times, as we've only got 30 seconds left on the clock. I see Robert McFarland coming around. Wonder if he is on an out lap or if this is his timed lap. He's got to get one in.
Yeah, looks like still 5 drivers yet to make a lap.
Well, I don't think they're going to be able to, because time is now up with 8 seconds left to go. Delp is going to try and come across the line. Not sure that he's going to get there. Looks like he did get it in, and he did improve. So, with our grid set, let's go through your starting order for the day. With Braden Johnson putting it on the pole, Thomas Sink comes in to try and see what he can do from outside of that front row. Bradley Hawley, our current championship leader, starts in P4 with Colton Lane. P3 with Colton Lane in P4. Austin Hunter is eventually bumped down into 5th. Rob Haynes will be next to him in the 6th position. Robert Esau Jr. starts P7. 8th will be Mike Richter. And then the inside of row 5 has Charles Sumner there. Brendan Chatley, who we mentioned earlier as part of the sponsorship, is starting 10th.
Just outside of the top 10 is Nicholas Delp in the 11th position, followed by Joshua Daniels starting 12th. Lucky number 13 on the grid is Brandon Walter with Kevin Fetty starting 14th. 15th place is going to be Robert McFarland with Jake Houndshell in 16th. Jean-Francois Champagne starting 17th on the grid with 18th belonging to Gregory Dice. Andrew Melvin and Jason Hounshell will follow him in line, completing your top 20 starters.
21st goes to Robert Malikian, and Mitchell Clark will be 22nd. Then it's Nicholas Hunter in the 23rd spot. Jeffrey Ford starts next to him in P24. Mike Donahue will start in the quarter century. Next to him is Adam Zemke in 26th. Then it's Frank Pichok in 27th. William Lee starts 28th as the last driver to get a time in qualifying. Tyler Pluff, Eric Roberts, John LaBaff, and Brian Brogan all did not get a time in. Will start from 29th to 31st. I see Roberts and Daniels are not in the server currently, so I think we might actually have 29 drivers take the green here today for round 6. As you can see them starting to peel off nicely like synchronized swimmer out of the pit lane and starting on this pace lap.
Looks like Braden Johnson was ready to go. He peeled right out of the pits.
Perfect timing for our director there as he scrolls down the pit lane. And the Mustang pace car already on the backstretch. Now with the updated version, for a long time, iRacing had an older Pocono that still had the trees there right next to the track, but now they've been separated by that chain link, well, not chain link fence, but a fence that keeps drivers from spilling out. Coming up to the infamous tunnel turn, mimicking Indianapolis. Unfortunately, Robert Wickens saw his career interrupted in IndyCar. Hopefully we won't have any big incidents here today, and thankfully nobody should be at peril bodily here in the sim world. It is right now at 3 p.m., just past 3 p.m. virtual standard time, so the sun will be slowly setting but won't get too low in the sky. We'll see whether or not it lowers the temperature anymore, which has gone down to about 106 degrees since we last reported on it. They've already hit turn 3. The Mustang pace car is going to be getting ready to peel in and give control to Braden Johnson for the green flag. Off of that final corner, there goes the pace car. Green flag is out immediately, and the number 36 tries to get it wound up, but a very good jump from the number 48 of Thomas Sink as they start to head towards turn 1. Not a lot of fanning out. I think they were listening to you.
Well, as the father of a 2-year-old, I can say they're probably the only ones that have listened to me. Notice the 184 of Bradley Holly keeping right locked to the back bumper of Braden Johnson as Johnson begins to inch ahead of Thomas Sink as they head down the back, well, one of the back straightaways.
I think it counts as the back stretch, just the longer one. Up to the outside, Sink not giving it up. Johnson still having to stay defensive as they're too wide through the tunnel turn. Bradley Holly just watching patiently in the popcorn position to see what happens, how this all works out. They come through turn 3 now, and still our 2 leaders have not settled it. Sink starting to lose a little bit of ground up on the high side through turn 3. That makes him vulnerable to the 184. Holly's got to run down the front stretch. A bump draft from the 48 as they head towards turn 1 is going to push him ahead slightly, and giving up the ghost, it looks like Holly decides it's better to get in line.
Yeah, looks like Braden Johnson really determined the outcome of that duel between the 48 and the 184 as he pulled up and allowed the 48 of Thomas Sink to draft right up to his back bumper, and now the 184 of Holly falling in line and going to try to regroup and get another shot at it later on.
They'll swing it into the tunnel turn a little wide there in the background. That is Colton Lane going high as Rob Haynes ducks down low but can't get the shot off the corner despite the mistake from the number 60 vehicle. There you see the bright blue is Colton Lane coming onto the front stretch. And your order for the top 5 as they cross the line once again is Johnson, Sink, Holly, Lane, and Haynes. Well, that's quite a view there. Not a whole lot to see as he was getting right underneath Thomas Sink.
Yeah, I believe you need a premium membership on some websites to get a view like that.
Jeez. as he stays right tucked underneath Thomas Sink. They lose a little bit of ground on Braden Johnson, our leader, heading into the tunnel turn. In
But
fact,
you got
go
to
ahead.
think, Joe, is that gonna make Johnson vulnerable? The way we've seen the draft kind of play a role in the battle up front early on, is he setting himself up for disaster by pulling away from these guys?
So far, they've not been able to run him down, and it doesn't look like Holly is fighting Sink too much, but we'll see on the front stretch as they come down once again. Does the 48 start to gain? It's down to 0.2 of a second. Getting a little bit closer as they reach turn 1. It doesn't look like it's really a threat with how far back he was. Look at him gain under braking. Boy, Sink looks strong entering the corner.
Yeah, I've noticed this a couple laps. It seems like Braden Johnson is really setting up his entry into the corner for a better drive off. He takes these really big sweeping entries into the corner, and he does lose a little bit of ground as he approaches, but usually he seems to have a bit of a better drive off.
These top 3 starting to get a slight breakaway as Colton Lane loses ground to the podium. No change up at the front. A little bit of a look to the inside coming into turn 3 from the number 48, but Thomas Sink in that black machine you see on your screen isn't going to make a serious attempt quite yet. It is very early days in the racing.
Yeah, in fact, we're just starting lap 5 right now, and as you mentioned, it is a 3-truck breakaway up front. These drivers playing pretty friendly with each other right now.
So we jump a little bit farther back here, seeing some side-by-side racing. I believe this is Melvin, yes, in the 37 that we're looking at. Kevin Fetty in the 94 up to the high side. Jean-Francois Champagne, who started in 17th, making great inroads. He's up to 13th already.
Yeah, one thing that's really nice about this slightly reconfigured version of Pocono that we have is it seems to allow for a lot better side-by-side racing. It wasn't all that long ago that you couldn't really see any passing in the tunnel.
And second place might change hands. Sink is down to the, or up to the high side rather. Bradley Hawley managed to get a nose end down to through turn 3. But all this battling is losing them touch with our leader, Braden Johnson. Truck on the low side, the 184 of Hawley. Oh, and we've got a caution. Houndshell involved. Jason Houndshell. Looks like he made contact with Robert McFarland. I think this was only a 2-truck incident. From that angle, it certainly looked like McFarland started swinging in too early.
Yeah, we got another view of it here.
From Houndshell's perspective. Yeah, it does look like he pulls over pretty early. And unfortunately, that's what sends them both down to the inside. And poor Houndshell comes out the worst of it, hitting the inside wall very, very hard.
Yeah, seemed a bit early to be protecting your position that aggressively.
Jason is going to come in for repairs. We haven't had the pits open yet, so we're waiting to see if drivers come in. We've only had 7 green flag laps, I guess 6 more likely. Is that enough for tires? Are tires worn out that quickly around here?
I wouldn't really think so with the age of the surface, and it has been a little more relaxed racing so far in the early runnings of the event. I guess it wouldn't surprise me if they came down, but I don't really think it's a necessary move at this point in the event.
Maybe more drivers towards the back taking that risk, you'd say?
I think that's probably if you're going to make the move, that's where I would make it from.
All right, so do any of them take that gamble? We'll find out soon enough because they're coming through turn 3 already, as they're still being led by Braden Johnson, has led every lap essentially. He's looking like he's heading in. Is this a fake? He looks pretty committed. Nope, he is in.
Yeah, looks like Good chunk of the field's coming down pit road. Looks like we have a couple guys possibly staying out, maybe.
Champagne is one of them, and he was on the lead lap.
He did start
He's
pretty deep in the field, so that could be a good play to get some track position.
That's true. But how much is this going to hurt him? Because he is the only driver. Oh, no. And Thomas Sink missed his pit stall. He continues on. This is disaster for the number 48.
Yeah, he wasn't even close, Joe. I don't know where he was, what point he was watching, but basically he pulled into his pit stall. By the time he was past it, well, now he's just going to have taken the hit of pulling down pit road without any of the benefits of fresh tires.
Well, to be fair, he comes back out where he went in because he was in second place. So he doesn't really take a hit in position. He just doesn't have the tires.
That's true. I mean, I guess quicker than a 2-tire stop is a no-tire stop.
No tires, no fuel. Just wanted to say hi to the crew.
Maybe they were eating ice cream.
I was thinking about going there. You took it right out of my mouth as we watched them follow the pace car. I think, are we going green this time? We got one more time around. Looks like the lights are on, so we got one more time around at the least. Jason Hounshell has been in the pits pretty much this whole time getting those repairs, so he's gone a lap down. Lost Robert Malikian as well. Not sure what happened to him.
So what do you think of this strategy play by Champagne? Do you think the track position is going to be worthwhile?
Sink is going back in. Sink is going to give up all this track position so that he can get tires. Wow.
I really didn't think the tire wear would be severe enough to warrant that, to be honest, Joe.
Well, and especially considering he was back where he was, it's not like he lost out, 10 positions because a bunch of people stayed out. This was really shocking, to be honest. As to the strategy, all I have to say is I probably do not make the best crew chief. So I think if it was me and I was in Jean-Francois's position, I probably would be willing to try it. I wouldn't be confident in it, especially if everybody else came in behind me. I'd probably be more likely if everybody went in like that for me to then duck in and then take myself to the very back of the pack and just kind of cruise around. But I'm a bit of a chicken when it comes to that sort of stuff on the oval side. So again, I should not be anybody's crew chief.
Well, as the spoiler says, I guess it's pucker time for Jean-Francois.
It really is. He's going to have to try and steel himself and see if he can hold back a charging pack of cars all on fresh tires, every single one of them compared to him. Braden Johnson will be starting to his outside. Pack of trucks, I should say. Just never going to get used to that. I commentate on cars so much, it never works for me to commentate on a truck race.
I mean, they're basically cars if you take the body off of them.
We'll get into philosophical debates on what is a car and what is a truck later because they're coming out of turn 3. Jean-Francois Champagne is going to have to prove himself on worn tires. Gets on the throttle, checks up the people behind him just a little bit. Colton Lane gets a pretty good jump on Braden Johnson, but can't do anything with it. It is Bradley Hawley, our championship leader, who gets the worst of that checkup, falling behind and possibly losing down to 4th. Nope, he is going to be able to slip into the 3rd position. But look at Johnson have to check up as he gets stuck behind Champagne. This is going to open the door to the 184. He has got a clear bit of track and a lot of speed to take the lead for the first time tonight.
Yeah, Braden Johnson did not get the best positioning in that run through the first couple corners, and now he's going to continue to drop through the field. I think he's sitting about 5th right now.
And he was trying to avoid taking it 3 wide while everybody else kept going underneath him. Finally, he squeaks through, but he falls down to 4th place. Champagne is clearly outmatched. Question is, how long can he hold on to try and minimize the damage of these old tires? Up next behind him is Robert Besaw Jr. looking to the inside into turn one, but the 43 decides not to go for it quite yet.
You got to think, though, Joe, if we get a quick caution here in the near future, then Jean-Francois probably gained 6 positions net from where he was running before that last caution. So definitely a gamble that he's playing right now, but it could work out in his favor if the caution flags fall right.
And look at how big the gap is getting. Besaw really wanted to get by and up into 5th, as already he's lost about 3/4 of a second to the top 4. Next on the hit list is going to be Mike Richter. He squeaks through under turn 3, and then another one following him. That is Andrew Melvin as well.
I am completely shocked by the big difference that the tires have made.
I get the feeling that Jean-Francois is just as shocked right now. But he's trying his best. He's not giving it up easily. He swings a little high, unfortunately, as he has to check up underneath him. Kevin Fetty manages to demote him yet another spot. Look at his side-by-side action behind Jean-Francois. We watch ahead. Fetty now streaming away. Champagne is down to 11th. He's nearly to where he was before this, which was 13th, so I'm not sure that this worked out.
Yeah, like we mentioned, it was a gamble, and unfortunately not looking like it's going to pay off. Got a couple trucks too wide behind him. Right now, the 312 Austin Hunter and Mitchell Clark in the 42, so could have a 3-truck battle shaping up there momentarily.
Hunter just manages to get to the low side. I was thinking he looks like he might get boxed in. And now it is Clark taking his turn to get through. Almost contact between Champagne and Ford gets checked up. He's going to get swamped on either side. Nicholas Delp to his inside and then to his outside, the number 4 of Clough. That truck eventually going to fall away. Ford lives to fight another day, doesn't lose any positions, gets to the inside of Champagne through the tunnel turn, and he's going to move himself up into 13th.
Yeah, I think Champagne at this point laying over and just kind of giving the guys some room.
Lap 14. And if they want to make it to the halfway point, he's got to get to lap 22. At that point, he could duck in, grab some tires, and try to get to the end. But so far, this strategy is looking like a little bit of a failure. So we watch those in front of him. Whoa, and we got an accident. That is John LeBaff going for an absolute wild ride. Champagne was involved in it. Number of trucks. Zemke in there. Dice. Brogan. Chatley as well. I think everybody else managed to avoid any sort of contact. The 911 car is certainly going to be utilizing that number with that hard of a hit. Just drifted up. The 57 was there. That was Gregory Dice. Didn't realize he wasn't clear, and that kind of kicked it all off.
Yeah, Dice looked like he really had nowhere to go when he kind of plowed in there at the end.
Yeah, it looked like after the initial contact, he had it under control, and then there's just more cars, unfortunately, getting caught up, turned him around, and took quite a bit of damage from that incident.
Well, Jean-Francois Champagne has to be pretty happy to see this caution come out, though.
Well, he was involved in that, wasn't he?
I think it all happened right behind him. I don't think he was actually caught up. It happened right behind him.
No, you're right. He just narrowly avoided it.
He was about as close as he could get without getting involved, but I think he stayed clear of it.
He did, but he nearly fell back to exactly where he started, which is honestly a net loss considering Before the pit stop, he was 13th. He's now P16. We had a number of trucks come on in. Donahue entered. LaBaff. Lickian was in there. I think he's back out on track. Chatley and Houndshell are all taking repairs.
Well, I imagine after we saw how the tires affected Champaign last time, we'll probably see everybody down pit road once again.
Look forward to the day that iRacing can give you a limit on number of tires. So I think that will certainly affect strategy, because right now it looks pretty straightforward around this track. Everybody ducking in to try and put 4 fresh ones right on.
Yeah, I mean, there was such a premium on it. We saw drivers take huge track position hits just to get tires, even after, you saw the 48 truck miss his pit stall and still came back later on, gave up literally the whole field's worth of track position just to get tires.
So close off the line, but I believe Bradley Hawley beat Colton Lane. So with that, we've got a little bit of time before the restart. So we'll take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with more racing here at Pocono for the PRL NASCAR Truck Series Round 6 in Pennsylvania. of round 6 in the PRL NASCAR trucks. Welcome back to Pocono Raceway. We just have got another caution for a moment. Hopefully we'll get back to green flag racing. You can see we're 28 out of 45 laps, but we're not confident that we'll be able to get all of those laps in. It depends on if they go green for a while. Thus far, it has been a bit of yellow fever, unfortunately. But Bradley Hawley is your leader. He's now flanked by Robert Besaw Jr., who's managed to get up into second place in the number 43. Can he maybe have something? A few drivers have tried to see if they can outfox the 184, but none quite yet ever since he took the lead away. Come out of the tunnel turn down towards turn 3. We are down to 25 cars left running. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that there is a vaccine for yellow fever, so hopefully we can get that located here and get this race back underway.
Have your trucks vaccinated, please. Let's see how they handle this restart as they come off of turn 3. Mustang pace car peels in. Bradley Hawley accelerates away to the green flag. Bad start for Besaw. He's immediately passed on the inside by Colton Lane, who wants that second place back. And I think the number 60 has got it.
Yeah, we mentioned it, but we haven't really got a good run in since it occurred. Colton Lane does have a bit of damage to the back of his truck, and we haven't really had a chance to see how that's going to play out. So far, it doesn't seem to be hindering him very much, as he was able to take the second spot back. But Besaw probably going to try to fight back and take the position.
We ride on board with the number 43. Fans of Champagne, he's actually gotten back up to 9th place. So even though he unfortunately had his old tire strategy go south on him before, he's certainly made up for it a little bit since then. As it is quite a pack of trucks back here, though. That might get overtaken by the truck behind him. That's Tyler Pluff in the number 4 up ahead. We're looking at Kevin Fetty in the camo-colored machine. In fact, I'm worried that the number 13 is going to be boxed in on the outside. In fact, he gets hit and spun around, and we got another caution. But Chris, we got one lap in.
Yeah, it looked like a Champagne and the driver to his inside just touched doors, and unfortunately, real pain for my Sham friends and Champagne for my real friends.
I was going to say he sprayed champagne all over the wall for that move. So number 13 having a bad night once again. That was a little bit of commentator's curse if I ever saw one. Just as we talk about the spots that he had made up, pancakes the left side. This brings us to, is this caution number 4 or 5?
It feels like caution 45. The way we've been racking them up here.
I think we're on caution number 4, but we've only got 13 and a change left in terms of time on the clock for them to try and get these laps in, considering it is, what, about 55 seconds a lap for a good lap. And we've got, this would be 14 laps left. It'd be awful tight, even if they went green all the way from here. I think we can officially say that this one is going to be a timed race from here on out. We're on board with Sumner, looking back at Mike Richter. Two drivers who have been having pretty solid races today, especially when you consider Sumner and Richter started in 9th and 8th, and they are both looking at a top 5.
Yeah, I'm noticing a lot of drivers that started deep in the field that have really worked their way up, which is all the more impressive when you consider how little time we've had under the green flag.
Those wondering, the temperatures have still gone down a little bit more. It's 100 degrees on the track surface. Not a drastic difference. Anybody going to come in, though? And actually, last pit stop was 15 laps ago. Wonder how many of these drivers took fuel. when they did that.
You know, I didn't really consider that possibility, Joe, until you just brought it up, but they have been out there quite a while.
Granted, it's been a lot of caution lately, so maybe they're not burning enough that it's an issue. Maybe they could get to the end from here. Just another variable to be thrown in, whether or not we have drivers that are able to make it to the end. Driver getting his lap back is Gregory Dice. He's down in 23rd. This will not put him on the lead lap. He's 2 laps down. He'll go back to 1 lap down.
You know, Joe, it always seems like the drivers with the best names for puns are never the ones that have the exciting races you get to talk to a bunch, but happy to see Dice getting back on to getting a lap back with a waiver run.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get an opportunity at some point for a pun on his name. We've certainly had our fair share of jokes at expense of our drivers, who thankfully have been mostly pretty good natured about our ribbing. We try to at least be fun with it. We gotta have a little fun in the booth every once in a while, you know.
Oh no, I hate fun.
How does your 2-year-old feel about that?
Well, he likes to scream a lot, so if you consider that fun, he's all for it. You know, Joe, you've probably, with a last name like Peak, you probably have been on been at the peak of some of these last name related puns.
Uh, I don't hear too many creative ones. I will say that. So people,
Oh,
not many people actually try and come up with something clever, but maybe that's just from my perspectives. So
yeah, well, with a last name like mine, you don't really get any good puns at all, so you got to live vicariously through those around you.
I mean, nobody's ever handed you the keys and said don't lose this. Key phobia, key fob. Is that too much of a stretch?
I mean, you got something there.
Something maybe. I'll keep thinking on it. That was spur of the moment, so I'll
Not
work
bad
on
for
it.
being on the spot. Not bad for being on the spot.
We're currently under caution, trying to entertain ourselves in the booth as we watch drivers circle their trucks around 2.5 miles of triangle. And the clock continues to tick away, taking away precious green flag laps. The one who's most happy about that is our championship leader and race leader, Bradley Holly, who certainly doesn't mind continuing to have all this caution.
Yeah, the two people I feel bad for is the pace car driver and the virtual flagman. The virtual flagman getting the workout waving that yellow, and then the virtual pace car driver having to drive that Mustang around.
Don't feel bad for the virtual fans. I mean, they came out here on this hot day.
I mean, a bad day at the racetrack's better than a good day at whatever virtual people do at the virtual office.
We're getting way too meta with this. I feel like as we take a look at the number 184. I am curious though. We were looking at the paint of Colton Lane, and we've had this paint for a while. I really want to know the story behind the "I laugh at Tony Danza." Do we know what is going on with that?
So is this like the PRL version of taco soup?
You know, it might be. I'm not entirely sure.
I spent a whole season chasing that white whale, only
But
to
you,
finally get my answer on the
I was
last
gonna
race.
say, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're rewarded.
Yeah, I had you in my ear yelling at me for not doing a real interview, but it's all about finding out what the heck taco soup meant.
Oh, I guess it's all real anyways. Is you did get to ask him a question. Doesn't matter if it's about the racing. They are doubled up. Let's see if we can get some racing in, or if we're gonna spend more time pacing behind that Mustang. They come out of turn 1 and should be going green next time by.
So it looks like we should have a couple minutes left, so theoretically we should be able to get at least a few laps in. So this could be a very different complexion than what we've seen on the last restarts, because these drivers are going to be well aware of the fact that we don't have a lot of time left.
If you're wondering who has left this race, because I mentioned at the time we were down to 25. We're now down to 24 drivers still circulating. Jeffrey Ford is gone. William Lee's out of here. Mike Donahue has ended his day. John LaBaff as well. Brennan Chatley. Jake Hounshell is still taking repairs, 25 minutes worth at this point. I don't think Jason's coming back out. Eric Roberts and Josh Daniels did not start. So otherwise, if you didn't hear your favorite driver in there and you know he's racing today, he's still racing. So as we come through turn 3 now, let's go racing. Hopefully, let's go racing under green for the final few minutes. Getting word that it is a King of the Hill reference with the I Laugh at Tony Danza. I like King of the Hill, but I'm not familiar with the episode. We'll look into that later. Right now, let's pay attention to racing as the green flag comes out for Bradley Hawley. Not the best of jumps on Colton Lane. He was timing that one to perfection. Can't quite get ahead, but the number 60 does slide into second place. Meanwhile, third is contested between Sumner and Besaw. Besaw's got the inside down into turn 1, but he doesn't have the momentum in the first part of the turn. The truck to the high side starts to lose out as Charles Sumner falls back into fourth in the 98. And 3 wide behind him. It is getting a bee's nest back there.
Yeah, Charles Sumner making a late race charge. I assume a different Charles Sumner than former United States Senator Charles Sumner.
You never know.
Running in the third spot on that restart. He's kind of came out of nowhere here at the end.
Thomas Sink trying to get back into things. Remember, he fell backwards with his error on pit road, and he's back up into the top 5. Could he salvage something? That would be an impressive run considering how few laps of racing we've had for the number 48.
You know what, Joe? I am going to say that's probably not former United States Senator Charles Sumner. He actually died in 1874.
Well, it shows you how much I pay attention to history. This battle, though, being won by Thomas Sink, at least for the moment. Richter gets a run. Does he go for it? He uses it, ducks to the inside. A little bit of a defensive move from Sink. The 48 tries to block him off, but a little bit too late. And up on the high side, Sink makes it work, fends him off. Behind it all, Mitchell Clark is still trailing, seeing if he can get any more positions. Remember, this is the driver that started in 22nd position, currently up to 7th.
Yeah, Joe, a very impressive rebound by Thomas Sink after he sunk to the back of the field with that pit area. Now he's floated his way back up towards the top and got a battle shaping up back there right behind him. Looks like a bit of a hornet's nest.
Yeah, that's Mitchell Clark being attacked by Austin Hunter, and Hunter's going to take it easily down into turn 1. He lets the car drift up high. Oh, it's a bit too high in front of him as well, as that was Mike Richter, who found the wall. Everybody manages to get around him, no caution.
Yeah, looks like the 312 may have had to burp
now
the
we got a
accelerator or
caution.
something. And caution on the speedway.
It was Zemke, Adam Zemke, in the number 21. He got turned by Champagne. Watch it from off board. Trying to see if Zemke turned down in on him or what happened. That's a really hard call. Doesn't look like he's turning down in on him, but also doesn't look like Champagne's turning up. We're going to watch from above one more time.
Looks like Champagne got a little bit of a run, tried to pass.
Well, unfortunately, Zemke did have to tow into the pits and has taken repairs. Frank Peachock is in, and we didn't see why Frank had to come into the pits. Been in there for about 2.5 minutes. Something must have happened when we weren't looking.
Well, overhearing in the driver chat, looks like Adam Zemke seems to think Jean-Francois was responsible for that incident.
And I believe we are on the final lap. And indeed, look at the white flag is up here on our timing and scoring. I believe we've run out of time. So Bradley Holly comes around leading the field behind the Mustang pace car. It was a bit grueling in the end. We did get a couple laps of green right towards the end of the race, but Bradley Holly is probably happy to take the victory here today at Pocono. Just ooh, and Zemke's very heated. He is he's making a few words. I guess I should put it at Champagne. Don't want to call it a threat, but it certainly sounded like it involved the future in the two of them. So
Yeah, probably not dinner plans they're making for next
no,
week.
I don't think so. We're staying on this just in case. We weren't sure if that was the last lap or not, because we didn't get the checkered flag. So this might actually be the last lap. Still doesn't change the situation unless Holly miraculously runs out of fuel. I think that Tundra should be fine. And it looks like this is the final lap this time. So called it a little bit early. It's a downside of these timed races on the ovals with cautions. Can get a little bit confusing. This will extend the lead, the points lead for Bradley Holly. And not only that, it'll be the 4th win of the season for the number 184. Behind him, Colton Lane, who's finishing second, is nowhere near in the points. This, if anything, is going to be a big boost for Colton through the mid-pack in the points chase. Besaw as well, not a threat in the championship. Most of his rivals have not had a good day. It's pretty much a perfect scenario for Bradley Holly as he comes across the line and for real takes the victory in Pennsylvania here today. The truck's accelerating away to go have a little bit of celebration. You celebrate yourself, but don't leave completely, because we are going to come back soon with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around on screen as well if you decide to completely stay with us, are all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Pocono Raceway. Bradley Hawley takes his 4th victory of the season and celebrates in style down on the very wide front stretch. He was ahead of Colton Lane. They started 3rd and 4th and finished 1st and 2nd, respectively. Besaw, however, took the final spot on the podium, and Charles Sumner finishes with a 4th place. Thomas Sink, unfortunately, had a little bit of an oops in pit lane, did recover to a top 5 at the least. Tyler Pluff finishes in a 6th after not getting a qualifying lap in, starting from 29th on the grid. In fact, I believe the last car to grid up, and still getting that 6th place. That's no mean feat. Austin Hunter with a 7th, and Mitchell Clark, probably the highest climber of anybody who took a qualifying lap, 22nd to 8th place. Kevin Fetty gets a well-earned 9th. Braden Johnson not going to be happy after taking the pole, having to settle with simply a top 10.
Well, Mike Richter, after running top 5 most of the event, fades towards the 11th at the end. 12th place is Nicholas Delp, with Andrew Melvin hanging on through a pretty exciting race for him to finish 13th. Jay Counshell comes home in 14th, with Brandon Walter 15th on the grid. Robert Melkian in 16th, with Nicholas Hunter, Rob Haynes, Robert McFarland, and Brian Brogan completing your top 20.
Jean-Francois Champagne, apparently in a little bit of a tiff with one of our other drivers. He finishes 21st, the first to lap down. Gregory Dice, 22nd. Adam Zimke was the one that had contact with Jean-Francois. He finishes 23rd, 2 laps down. Frank Peacock was a DNF for the day, 24th. Same with everybody back here. Jeffrey Ford, William Lee, Mike Donahue, John LaBaff, Brendan Chatley, and the unfortunate Jason Hounshell. Josh Daniels and Eric Roberts did not start today. Up next, we've got our leader, our winner, ready to talk to us, Bradley Hawley, with his 4th victory of the season out of 6 rounds. That is a pretty good strike rate. Bradley, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
That's okay. Brad, as I was saying, 4 wins out of 6 rounds. You've clearly got a good hold on the championships. This extends your points over a lot of your rivals who seem to struggle today.
Yeah, today was definitely a tough day with, the guys in PRL having a hard time staying green. I was really hoping for a long green flag run to put on a good show and have some fun.
You did start to get it at first, and of course, after that first set of stops, that first caution, only one driver elected to stay out, Champagne. Did that worry you on the restart?
Oh yeah, absolutely. With how much the tire fall off was, even though it was 4 or 5 laps under green, it was probably about a half a second worth of fall off on tires, and I knew turn 1 was going to be tricky.
And you mentioned trickiness. Well, this is called the Tricky Triangle. It's a very specific track, but we're going to an even more specific one next week with Eldora. How are you on dirt?
I can hold my own in dirt. I've had some success before, and looking forward to, or hoping I can have some more success next week.
Well, we look forward to seeing you try your hand out on the less paved surfaces. Congratulations on another victory, and we'll see you in a week's time.
Thank you very much.
Bradley Hawley, our winner here today in the number 184. Up next, Chris is going to be talking to 2nd place Colton Lane.
Well, Colton, you had a bit of an eventful race, hung around there towards the front for the latter part of the event, but took some damage heading into one of those last restarts. Did you have any concerns as far as that went late in the race?
Not too much. I just felt bad for Rob, was behind me on that. Tried to jump the start a little too much. So, but we managed out fine. Well, besides Rob with a later incident, but.
Well, got to be a little bit disappointing to make it all the way up to 2nd and not really have a chance to race it out. Did you think you had anything for him there at the end, or were you just kind of happy to be where?
I was happy to be there. We're all a part of, Brad, me, Waterback, Tom, part of Waterback Racing. We're all up there. We practiced. I probably had 3rd place speed if we stayed green, so 3rd or 4th. So I was happy with finishing 2nd, to be honest.
And now the I laugh at Tony Danza thing. Is that obviously a big King of the Hill fan, or what's the story there?
Yeah, man, it's a big King of the Hill thing. Go watch the episode in season 2. It's called the Man Who Shot Kane Skretterberg. It's a pretty good episode. If you have any interest in that, it's a really good episode. But it comes from there.
Well, I appreciate the deep cuts. Anyone you want to thank for making your race possible, Colton?
Yeah, man, all the guys at Waterback, namely Charles Sumner up here, got a nice fourth place finish. You got Tom Sink recovering from some early problems. Brad for winning, Austin, Nicholas, everybody, even Rob and John, who had bad races tonight. But we all go out there, we practice once a week, twice a week, and we come out here and try to run, man, and have a good time.
All right. Well, congratulations on a good run. We hope to see you back at the next race.
Hopefully, we'll see y'all.
That was our second place finisher, Colton Lane. And we've got third place. Bobby Besaw is with us, finishing third after starting seventh, but you certainly had to do some work, Robert. Let's talk about the first restart when we had Champagne not come in and stay out on those old tires. You got bottled up a little bit behind him. Did you have any sort of panic when you saw the leader starting to pull away like that?
Yeah, I did. It's funny you point that out. That's exactly what I had was panic. When that happened, it gave them just enough gap, and those three guys together are very fast. I thought basically the race was over, and I was just going to try to hold the position I had at that time.
Once you got all the cautions in, it seemed like they kept coming one after another. Did you have any sort of strategy on how to deal with those? Were you trying to stay aggressive on the restarts, or were you just trying to consolidate position?
What I was trying to do is just whatever Brad was doing. He's a great driver, so if he was pitting, I was pitting. I tried to stay on him every start. I wasn't getting the best starts, and I just wanted to make sure whatever I did, I held my line and didn't get in anybody, and just try to basically get single file and try to stick with those guys, not let them get away, and try to hold the spot I was in.
Obviously, you're not in the championship hunt currently, though there are still a few rounds left. Uh, are you looking for victories here as the season goes on, and do you think that's feasible for you?
I'll savor the podiums. They don't come very often for me, especially in the trucks, especially at this track. I ran this track with the PRL last time we ran, I think a year ago, and I'm pretty sure I got lapped on the track. So I'm going to savor the third. A win in this series probably isn't likely. I feel better in our Sunday series in the A car.
So, a realistic response. Thanks for coming and talking to us, Rob. And I guess a big congratulations on a podium then.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for everything you do. PRL, ETC for sponsoring it, and I really appreciate how you guys do this. You do a great job. Thank you.
That was Robert Besaw, who finished third today. And it's going to wrap things up for us. So we want to thank the sponsors as well. A big thank you goes to Established Traffic Control. If you'd like to see what they have to offer, you can find it at establishedtraffic.com. And again, that's not just for street signs. You can get decor for your house if you want a cool custom sign made for yourself. So definitely go and give them a look. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Chris, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button as well so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race in this series is going to be at Eldora. That'll be Wednesday, July 31st at 8:50 p.m. Eastern, where everybody's going to get a little bit dirty. Coming up right now, though, if you like Indy cars, how about Indy cars at Barber? That'll be fun with the Lionheart series happening just this moment. We'll also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.